The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
All right, so I have been trying to find people to come on and talk about food. And what's awesome is my man, Brian Lay, is here from Mendocino Food Consulting, and I'm going to have him talk all about that. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got a food scientist today. And this is fantastic because as you and I talked before we got on air, the goal with everything Deep Shallow Dive is just to help people understand what's going on, whether that's geopolitically or whether that's what they're putting into their body, the way they're shopping for food, understanding the back of a nutrition label and all that. So, Hey man, welcome. I really appreciate it. Why don't you maybe give a 2-second blurb so people can kind of get to know you a little bit, and then we'll jump into some food.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, honestly, I'm Brian. I graduated with my PhD in 2020 in food science. And since then, I've just been helping companies develop food products. And, honestly, sometimes you get to know a little bit more how the sausage is made. It's good to inform yourself. And I realize that a lot of people don't have the same knowledge that I do. And it's important for us to all kind of help each other get a better understanding of, a lot of the things that goes on behind the curtain.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about how the sausage is made, literally and figuratively. I'm trying to figure out, why is this country so fat? Okay. And for me, it really comes down to two things, and it's not rocket science. It's calories in, calories out. So calories out, I talk a lot about step count, daily movement, sweating, making physical fitness, and quite frankly, having your body move as part of your daily regimen. But obviously, the food is so important. So talk us through this food scientist stuff. What are they creating? Is it shit? Are they just adding stuff to preserve the product so it lasts longer? Are they adding stuff to make it taste better, to make it look better? Talk us through all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, taste better, look better, last longer, you name it. But the big one, cheaper, right? Like anything that you can do to make it cheaper. And I think what the sad part about our industry is that I think a lot of people come in as food scientists hoping that they can make a difference, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone comes in is like, I'm going to spend my degree, making shitty food for people, because like they could be doing something else. Let's say like these are smart people. The issue it comes down to is, we live in a world where the food industry, razor thin margins, everyone wants their cut. A lot of it is marketing, right? A lot of it goes to, shareholder and the different corporate teams. The amount it takes to make food, like the actual serious cost, is like minuscule. At the end of the day, it might be like 10 or 20% of the price, right? Because we're getting ingredients from China. We're getting ingredients, we've got tons of soy, we got tons of corn. And so literally everything we're trying to make from these two things because they're super cheap. And it's like at some point, you're going to run out of nutrients because you're like exhausting all these crops. Like they need rest, they need minerals, they need, and there's these really interesting studies I read in The Economist maybe a couple of years ago. It's just like the soil is like nothing now. Like all those nutrients are gone because
you mean it's depleted. The soil is depleted. Okay.
Completely depleted. Yeah. Where did it go? It went into, 20, 30, 50 years of continuous industrial crop production. So,
okay.
You know what I mean?
And are when you talk about like ingredients being from China, I know India, I think is a big country that makes ingredients. Are we really getting most of our stuff from there? And is it because the United States soil is depleted, or the United States farmers are getting just railroaded? Like why is it? It's just cheaper?
It's so crazy. We have a crazy food system. Basically, we take the corn and soy that we produce here, we ship it out to China. They feed it to their animals. because it's cheaper to make it here and ship it out, right? It's
That's
for whatever
wild.
crazy reason. And then they ship over, the finished goods. And it's like, yeah, because labor's cheaper, right? Like you don't want to produce stuff here in the US. You might want to produce it in Mexico. You want to be able to produce it you want to produce it where, you're not paying, American wages to produce, because it cuts into the bottom line. And it's really this unfortunate system where, China doesn't barely has any regulations in terms of, sustainability or metal poisoning and that sort of thing. And you start to see it. You start to see it creeping in. You see sort of ingredients that come up from, South America, and, they have lead to up the wazoo, and then they have to do a recall, but no one knows why or where it came from. It's like in the cinnamon of all places. But it's like, yeah, because these countries don't have the same rigor of testing as you would have in a Western country. And
And
so,
fundamentally, all of these issues with, I guess, the unfortunate way of this food getting made, it comes down to profit, right? It comes
yeah,
down to the
unfortunately,
financial aspect. Man, that
yes,
is so sad, because
it's
honestly,
sad.
I think that is absolutely what is causing this epidemic of obesity, and people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you combine shitty food with lack of movement, and that's a
Yes.
recipe for disaster. Let me ask you about a couple things in particular,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
aspartame and gosh, I'm forgetting. Hold on, actually, you know what's funny? I drink these.
Like
Yeah, and
sucralose.
listen, and I'm not perfect. Okay, so like, let's talk about aspartame, and then like sodium benzoate, potassium
Sure.
benzoate, the
Sure.
preservatives. Are these awful for us, or what are these things?
I have mixed feelings about them,
Okay.
because at the end of the day, as a food scientist, I know that there's decades of research on them in terms of their impact on humans, and they've been shown to not really have much of a problem
Okay.
as far as like pure dosage wise. Like they're not going to kill you, right?
Okay.
That's fine. The issue is like it's a preservative. So what does that mean? That means that it kills microorganisms. What does that mean? Well, your gut has microorganisms. And so there's these interesting studies that show like long-term effects. Like, yeah, you have to have a certain amount in the foods to make sure that it doesn't poison you, right? You don't want food poisoning. But on the other hand, is like your gut microbiome is really sensitive, right? Like these microorganisms that live in your stomach have evolved with you, and
Yeah.
now we're just like trashing them essentially. And so I wonder, like, what does that mean in 100 years, 200 years? Like, I'm not thinking like a couple decades. I don't think we've even studied it that far. But like, we're constantly like changing, evolving, and we think that all these things that we put in our bodies is like static. It's static matter, but it's not. You can get like severe inflammation,
Yeah, yeah,
chronic
absolutely.
inflammation.
Chronic inflammation. I want to talk.
Yeah.
You just said something that was honestly such a light bulb for me. So I understand the sodium benzoate, potassium sorbate, they're preservatives. I understand that they kill the microorganisms so the food doesn't spoil or the drink doesn't
Yep.
spoil. So they
Yep.
have a longer shelf life. They can live
Yep.
on the shelf longer and they can sell. I never pieced it together. And then you said, hey, those have been studied. They're not that bad. It's not going to kill you in those doses. Totally get that and totally agree with that. And my thought process on them honestly stopped there. I never took it to that next phase of, now that I'm taking that into my body, it's not going to kill me, but it's intended to kill microorganisms. So it's messing with my gut
Yeah.
and my microbiome.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
that's the problem. Maybe
Yes.
that is the long-term issues of all of these preservatives that,
Yes.
quite frankly, is not a direct line correlation. Wow, that's pretty wild, dude. That's
Yeah.
pretty wild. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. Or things like, when you see sugar-free stuff, obviously they've removed the sugar, or fat-free. They've removed the
Sure.
fat-free. I think I understand a little bit better, because when I turn around and look at the label, yes, there's no fat, but there's a ton of sugar in there.
Yeah. You got to put something,
You
right?
got to put something for the taste, right? Is that for the
Yes.
taste?
It's for the taste. It's like, like can't be made of air, right? You got to
Yeah.
have like something to bulk it up, and sugar is dirt cheap, my friend. You know,
Okay.
it's so cheap, and so it's funny because you take the fat out. Fat's actually it costs a lot on the market. Like if you think in terms of like seed oils and that sort of thing, or coconut oil, they're expensive.
Yeah.
But sugar, you can bulk things up like nobody's business to do that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, okay. Well, give us a couple, like, are there any real red flags people should look for? And then do you turn everything around and do you look at the nutrition facts, the supplement facts? Are there any ingredients that we really need to not try to put into our body?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. You know, honestly, I would say number one, and this is part of my own personal journey of
Yeah.
learning a little bit more of like what's impacted me and so on and so forth. Like sugar seems to be the number one enemy
Okay.
because
Yeah.
you know what happens is again, we'll go back to the gut microbiome. Sugar, every species of microorganism will eat sugar, all of them,
Yeah.
the bad ones, the good ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more you're feeding the bad ones, the more they have a foothold. And, you know, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, you get all this inflammation,
Yeah.
right? And that inflammation is like the number one killer for everything, like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, you know, even cancer is all like the ideology of it or etiology of it is derived from inflammation. And I studied this. This was my PhD, was I studied like the effects of plant-based foods and ingredients on inflammation. And, you know, at the end of the day, like the gut microbiome, like this thing has been around for millions of years, ever since we started as humans. It's a fine-tuned machine. And we're
Okay.
just
Okay.
like we're basically throwing gasoline and like just thinking, whatever. That's
And
crazy.
sugar's that number one killer. I mean, listen, I've talked about sugar. I've done a dedicated episode on
Mm-hmm.
sugar. I really
Mm-hmm.
want to keep hammering that home. I personally, you know, when I do turn things around and I look at the nutritional facts or even the supplement facts or whatever set of
Yeah.
facts are on there,
Yep.
I look for sugars. I look for added sugars. What about
Yep.
these alcohol sugars? You see these
Yeah.
alcohol sugars in gum and other
Yep.
shit. What is that?
You know, it's stuff that your body doesn't know how to deal with, right? Like the idea is like chemically,
Yeah.
you know, we have enzymes that are working day and night trying to break down everything that we eat. It stares at sugar alcohols. It's like, what the F is this, right? And then
Yeah.
it goes straight into your colon, and all of the microorganisms in the colon are like, hell yeah. So, you know, you get, you know, if you eat too much of them, you know, you get diarrhea, you get like flatulence. It's like, you know, but same problem, long term, question mark.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what does that
Yeah.
mean? We're basically living experiments, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
biological experiments.
Yeah. Long-term question marks. We are biological experiments, and that applies to the COVID vaccine. And we are living that too. But I digress. Okay, let me ask you about let's talk about the plant-based stuff. And you know, like a few years ago, I don't think it's as big now, but like Impossible Burgers and
Yeah,
Beyond Meat and those
yeah,
things came out. Gosh, at the time, my girlfriend at the time was a vegan. So like we were eating Impossible Burgers and Beyond Meat burgers and all that. And I'll tell you my biggest litmus test on food. It's not while I'm eating it, but it's the next day when I go number
mhm.
2.
Yes, yes.
When I would eat a Impossible Burger or a Beyond Meat burger, that next day number 2 was horrific. Like just awful, just awful. And I tell everybody now, I'm like, if you should be looking at your number 2 every morning.
100%.
Okay.
100%. I think we should be doing that as like a species. Like
Yeah.
that's what we should. I think the Japanese have it down. I think they like are all about it. They have all
Are
different
they?
terms.
They do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And it's just you kind of wonder like, yeah, that's the end of all your food. Like, and
Yeah.
if it's coming out funny, it's
Yeah.
in there
And
funny, you know?
if it smells horrible, then
Yes.
that's not good.
It's not good. It's
Okay.
not good.
So talk to us about like, yeah, these plant-based stuff. What are your thoughts on that, on those?
Same deal. It's like it's such a big question mark for me because I would say we've had plant-based foods, but they're whole foods.
Yeah.
or they're like minimally processed, like tofu. Like you need couple little steps to get there, but like we've been eating that for a while. There's a lot of these foods that we've been eating for a while, and I think what we're missing in our culture, in the Western cuisine of at least America, is like some underlying guide to eat, and not just like nutrition, not just like health, not just like, but more like a philosophy, right? And like you have the Nordic countries, they have a philosophy on food, and the Japanese cuisine has a philosophy on food. And it's that idea of like, it should feel pretty decent to you in your body. Like you should not be feeling bad after eating. And to me, if you're putting something in there and it's wrecking things up, I mean, that's a problem. I mean, and to the point of all these plant-based companies, I think the mission is important, like sustainability. I think that is a key. But getting there, it's like by any means necessary. I think that's an issue. I think we have to look at it more holistically. Like, how does this impact everyone? How does it impact like the society that we live in? Like, you can't just like shovel like something that was like made in a refinery. I think that there's something wrong with that as far as
totally.
like our idea.
I mean, particularly the Impossible Burgers and the Beyond Meat Burgers, I would turn those around. I couldn't even pronounce the ingredients. I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen so many consonants in one word. This would be like amazing if it was on Jeopardy, and it's like, I'll take a C and there's like 27 of them. Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. Okay. So a lot of that stuff seems like, again, marketing, again, it comes back to marketing. What about, I think you and I initially got connected because I put out a request in regards to fiber. Do you have any thoughts on fiber and then things like Metamucil or a fiber supplement?
Yeah, again, it's so interesting to think like we come from a world where like we try to like keep everything a single bullet, like a silver bullet. Like, okay, we don't have enough fiber, so just throw in a bunch of fiber, right? Or like, I don't have enough protein, so just throw in a bunch of protein. But food is complex, right? Like it comes in like, there's all these aspects to them. And then like for fiber, in that case, you don't get just one kind of fiber from plant-based sources or, fruits and vegetables and that sort of thing. There's all sorts of different subgroups and categories of fibers. Some fibers feed certain types of microorganisms. Some other fibers feed other types of microorganisms. It's really complex. And we've learned over the, last couple of decades, especially with its interaction with the gut microbiome. I'm just going to keep harping on the gut microbiome here.
Okay. So the gut microbiome. Okay. Yeah.
It's huge. Like the number one reason why fiber works at all is because the gut microbiome eats it.
Okay.
Like we don't eat it. We have nothing to do with it, but it goes down into our colon, and the bacteria there, they eat it and they convert it into these compounds called butyrates. And these butyrates are what reduces inflammation. Like it has been shown that if you're just eating the right amount of fiber for years, for decades, the probability, the risk of you getting any of those chronic diseases that we're talking about, obesity, even diabetes and cardiovascular, it drops because that butyric acid or that butyrate is protective. And you gotta feed them.
And it's minimizing any inflammation, and that inflammation is not allowing an acidic atmosphere inside your body. No, I believe in all that, man. I really do. I believe in, the cancer and all of those cells. And by the way, what feeds them the most is that sugar we talked about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude, it's like a wicked cycle, man. It's a wicked cycle. What are your thoughts on this Make America Healthy Again? Like when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. kind of, planted his flag in the Trump universe, and, they made all this big noise about making America healthy again, which I think a lot of it was meant toward vaccines. I mean, if you feel comfortable talking about vaccines, we can. If not, on the food side, I mean, what do you think? Like, are they doing anything? Like, what is this?
I question a lot. I think obviously they have to sort of run a fine line between like banning things outright and then catering to the food industry. Food industry is huge. I mean, especially if we talk about like just animal protein in general, animal agriculture, huge. But I think if there was 3 ways, and I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor, I'm just talking like as a person. Maybe I've studied a little bit, right? I've got my PhD. That to me that doesn't mean as much as it maybe used to. But in any case, it's the sugar again with that, combining sugar with higher fiber, lower sugar, higher fiber, higher protein, and then just the movement, right? Like
Okay. Yeah.
get it going, get it. Like we are as a species, we're designed. We're probably moving around like 8 to 12 hours a day,
Yeah.
all the time
Yeah.
for like hundreds of generations. Like that's got to do something to us. And now
Absolutely.
we just sit around like watching TV and like eating mindlessly, right?
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
I question, like, are they just trying to get the like lowest hanging fruit? Like, oh, let's like deal with these artificial colors because like as far as cost go, it's very minimal. It makes up like 0.005% of the composition. But if you go, hey, let's put a cap on sugar, or maybe we need to like increase fiber or protein in the American diet. Now you're talking about like hundreds of millions of tons of material. You
Okay.
see what I
Okay.
mean? Do you understand what I'm trying to get at?
I see
Like,
what you're trying to get at. So
yeah,
instead, let's focus on red dye number 6. That's like 0.1% of the overall cost. And quite frankly, who gives a shit? But all of a
exactly.
sudden, hey, look, everybody, we've banned red dye number 6, which I think that literally was the one they banned.
I think it was. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was either that or red dye number 3, but
Yeah,
all
exactly.
sorts of
And then
ones.
here's what's funny about that. They banned that same exact ingredient in cosmetics 30 years ago. But
Right,
for the past
right.
30 years, they've been okay with us consuming it. You know what, man? You just hit on something incredibly poignant. And that is these stupid little wins, red dye number 3, red dye number 6, who cares? Let's talk about sugar. But now all of a sudden, sugar is a $400 million a year
Yeah,
industry.
yeah,
Yeah, dude, they're not
yeah.
going after that.
No, why would they? Why would you know
Yeah.
how much flack they would get?
Yeah.
Everything would have to be reformulated.
Everything,
Everything. Yeah.
everything. Okay, okay. Let me ask you this. I have a love-hate relationship with protein bars. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm a big protein guy. Like, I'm all about protein. I honestly try to eat very minimal carbs. I just feel better when I don't eat the
Sure.
the simple carbs for sure. But even like I'm not a big pasta guy. I don't really
Sure.
eat anything white. I don't eat baked potatoes. I don't eat
Yeah.
pasta. I don't eat rice and all that. But I have this love-hate relationship with protein bars because I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want that protein,
Yeah.
but I feel like that protein is not the same protein as when I eat a piece of chicken or a piece of meat.
For
Are they?
sure. Oh no, it's totally different. That protein has to go through so many processes to get where
Yeah,
it's got to be extracted, it's got to be like filtered, it's got to be acidified and then reacidified and blah 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 blah. There's so many steps. It boggles the mind how you get to end up with what you get at the end of the day. And honestly, same deal. I've got the same deal where I have a love-hate relationship. I like to think like, all right, I've got my protein in, but there is fundamentally, I feel a difference when I'm eating chicken, right? Or if I'm eating, meat, because that's what we've been running on, right? Like human evolution, and the reason why we're here today is because we learned how to take meat and throw it on a fire, right?
right,
Like
right.
simple stuff. And like our bodies have just adapted like all those generations to get there. And it's like now suddenly we're throwing something we've never seen before.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what's going on?
No, totally. Like when I have those protein bars, I just don't think they're doing what I think they're doing. And that
Yeah,
is, this is building my muscles because supposedly protein builds muscles. I just don't think they're doing that. Or even protein supplements. When I scoop a powder of
sure.
the protein supplement, I just don't think it's doing. I will say the fiber supplements, I've talked about this a few times now, and I've added that to kind of my daily life.
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
notice a difference in my number 2s that next day. There's much more bulk in that number 2.
Right,
After I
right.
go, I honestly feel great. I feel like I've emptied my bowels like incredibly. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that feeling. But with those protein bars, I don't feel anything with those or the protein powder. I'm gonna stop wasting my money on that. That's funny. What about
No,
Go ahead. Good.
I was just gonna say to your point of the fibers, doesn't take very much to make them.
Okay. There we go. Comes back to that. What about hydration? What are is it just water? Is it tea? And feel free to give us kind of your own personal routine. Like if there's any real foods you like and that you incorporate on a daily basis, I'd love to hear those.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to be a big runner. Like I spent a lot of my early teens and in my 20s, like, doing half marathons and that sort of thing. So I was always big on water, but it's interesting. Now that I'm in my 30s, what I crave more is like a sensation of like I'm drinking something a little bit more than just water. Now I still drink a ton of water, but I kind of force myself to. But I really like Olipop, and this is not a sponsored. I don't know. I mean,
wait, I didn't hear you. You like what?
Olipop.
Olipop. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
you know what? I want to ask you, sparkling water, is the carbonation process, are there anything, I drink a ton of sparkling water. I really do.
Yeah,
So like, is there anything I should worry about there?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
it's just not that much.
Okay. Okay, good.
The carbonation process is like not that big of a deal, and it's pretty good.
Okay.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. Yeah, I mean, I used to drink a lot of soda, unfortunately, and I cut that out in my early 20s, and I had to replace it with something, and they didn't come out with Olipop until much later in my life.
Yeah.
So now that it's here, that's what I drink. Like, the fiber is cool, but I don't drink it necessarily for the fiber. I think it just helps me kind of get some more fluid into my body, and I think having something flavored is totally understandable. I drink a lot of tea.
Okay.
I love tea. That's my go-to.
Like
if
black
I need
tea, green tea, or
yeah,
whatever
the whole
tea.
shebang.
Okay.
Yeah, if I'm feeling adventurous, I'll do pu'er, right? And then if I'm, sometimes I'll do a matcha if I'm feeling fancy.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's these really great green teas from Japan that you can really feel like, wow, there was like care made into them. These like sort of ceremonial grade green teas, and it's wild to me. Like they know tea, right? That's how I feel.
What's your background? I'm so bad at guessing Asian.
I'm Vietnamese.
You're Vietnamese. Okay, got it. Yeah, I feel like that Asian culture, though, they really do have a better relationship with food. Japan in particular, I think there's a real respect to food where it's not just for functionality, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I look at countries in Europe, and I look at these small little bodegas and the way people shop and the way people eat. It's almost like they're either shopping and eating for that day or maybe a couple days. And here in America, and I am so guilty of this,
me too.
It's like we shop with Costco and buy $400 worth of stuff and have 2 refrigerators and a freezer, and we've got enough food to like last through the winter. But that's terrible. That's really terrible. That concept of the way European countries and like these small little cities and towns that you're going to the bodega and you're buying tonight's meal and you're eating it. That's just so much healthier.
Sure. And I have a theory about that.
Okay.
Which is that, of course, like Europe is a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Distances doesn't take much to get from, village A to village B. They've been there for like about at least 1,000 years, each country. In the United States, the history is really built around this idea of like go west, manifest destiny. And, when it comes to that, food became really about survival, right? How do you preserve it? How do you make sure like you get that dried like bison meat? It's all about like, it's very utilitarian. That's right. It's very utilitarian. And I think we adopted that like unconsciously. Like that just became like the sort of our philosophy. It was like, get it done, right? Like, I don't care where it came from. I don't care if it's raccoon meat for all, like I need to survive because I'm out west. I'm in, desert town, like, cowboy city, right?
Yeah.
And, I need to go like 200 miles on my horseback. I don't really give a rat's ass about like how it was made. And so I think we've just like garnered this sort of feeling for that versus like these countries settle down, go out. This is like a ceremony. This is like, let's like the food we love, and it's important to love food. I think that's the other thing is we don't really make tasty food.
Yeah.
Like we work really hard to like make it tasty, but it's like, it's not like crafting like this like 42-hour broth, this pork broth to make ramen, right? It's not like let's like let this age for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then let's give it a shot. You know what
no,
I'm
and again, those Asian cultures definitely are way better than that. What about salt? What are your thoughts on salt? And is that something that, I mean, I know the body needs a certain amount of salt, but I feel like salt's another killer.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, certainly there's like a lot of medical research around that where like, if you're only really for people who have like poor kidney function. But I think like at the end of the day, like if you hit a certain limit, at some point your body just can't take it anymore, right? Like just like any other system, you can't just dump. Like if you dumped a bunch of salt in the river, everything dies. Like, and so that kind of gives you an indication of what could happen, right? And there's a lot of different forms of salt. I think we take it for granted, this idea of like salt's just salt. But like apparently if you get salt from, let's say, like soy sauce or miso, there's all these compounds in there that are produced during the fermentation process that actually help with cardiovascular conditions. And they improve the flavor in such a way you don't need extra salt. I mean, it's just like, and the same goes with some cheeses too. And so like, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we don't do a lot of fermentation in this country. Fermentation is like the basis for a lot of cuisine.
Really good, right? Like kimchi,
it's so good.
Like kimchi.
Yup. And then you got your sauerkraut from the Germans.
Sauerkraut, yeah.
Like that's huge. The French like love to let things sit and die. So
yeah, that's interesting.
Whether it's meat or cheese.
I actually eat a lot of kimchi. That's kind of part of my things that I consume. I'll have to add sauerkraut to the mix. And I do that because I've read that really helps the microbiome, and that kind of helps with gut health and those bacterias and those organisms. Okay. Good stuff. All right, people, let me give a recap of where we are. Get rid of sugar. Sugar's number one. Keep an eye on that. Add fiber to the mix, right? That's a good one.
Yep.
And movement, of course, is a non-food, but get out there, move, get off your ass and get out there, move, get your 10,000 steps in. Fermented foods. You're a fan of fermented foods.
Huge
there we
fan.
go. And then you don't have a particular, like you're not vegetarian, vegan, Mediterranean. Do you have any real quote unquote diet you subscribe to?
Like I used to be really, I used to like have like these really big focus, like obsessions with certain types of eating. And I found that, what happens is, I don't know if this is true for everyone else, but I got stressed out, right? It just became like another thing on my list, right? It just occupied my mind too much. And at some point I was just, I said, you know what, let's see if there's anything I ascribe to. It's like, how do I feel? Like, let me just sit down. I do a lot of meditation. Like that's my go-to to sort of get my worldview kind of, settled down. And after I eat, I'll meditate.
Really?
And I'll just be like, And it took, the only reason I did this is because I walked from California to Louisiana when I was 22.
Wait, you walked from California
I walked
to Louisiana?
Yeah.
What are you, Forrest Gump? What was that about?
Yeah. So my dad died of a stroke.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. In college, it shook me because I was like, because he was a doctor. He was 62. He was a doctor. And I was like, no shit. Like you can know all this stuff about how the body works.
Yeah.
But you can't save yourself from...
What happened? What caused him to pass at so early?
It's crazy. I mean, I don't know. We don't know. We really don't know. I think, the doctors told us, he had like thin blood vessels, but I was like,
dude,
did
he have a heart? Was it heart related? Did he have a heart attack?
It's just like something burst in his head, in his brain.
Okay.
Yeah, an aneurysm, and then just like, and then he fell down the stairs, and then that was it, man. It's like, so anything can happen.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that told me like, hey, I gotta do something. I've been sitting on my butt for 4 years, in college.
Yeah.
And so I said, so when I graduated, I was able to speak in front of my department. So I studied chemistry. And so my big thing was like, yeah, my dad died. I'm going to walk now. Like, sayonara.
Wow. Were you doing it to kind of like, I don't know, honor him or bring awareness to something?
Definitely to honor him for sure. Because he actually spent a lot of his life like partially paralyzed. So he didn't get to do all the things he
Oh my
wanted to
gosh.
do.
Okay.
He was a big traveler, right? When before I was born. So I took it upon myself to say, like, I might as well. I've been thinking about this for a while. I want to see the country. I want to meet people. I got to get out of my books. You know what I'm saying? And I did that. And one of the really interesting things during that time was anytime I ate like crap, I would walk. I could only walk like 5 miles. Like my legs couldn't do it. Anytime I ate really good, I was going 20, 30 miles. Easy, easy.
Interesting.
It was
Interesting.
such a stark difference. And I just thought to myself, there's no way in hell that it's just the food does something to you.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to notice when you're just sitting.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
the thing.
That's very interesting. So when was this? When did you do this walk?
Yeah, so this was in 2012.
Wow, okay. So did you
Yeah.
document this on social media and like were you showing your thing? And then how do you even do that? Like did you go through neighborhoods? Did you go
No,
on
dude,
the highway?
just straight to the desert. I mean, I was following a couple highways here and there,
Yeah.
and then in Texas, so I was just like I just like took a right, and I got through like some of these really amazing small towns like Marfa. If you ever look up Marfa, Texas, it's this like
Never even
artist
heard of it.
commune, like
Yeah.
that's like in the middle of the desert, and so you get to see parts of the world that you never want even think about when you're in the car. And I think that was my new worldview, was like what I see in the car
Yeah.
is nothing like it would be on the ground with boots on the ground.
So how many hours a day were you walking?
I think it was like I'd cap out at 8, and
Okay.
then I'd need to just like I decided like I didn't want to do 12. I think some people can like hustle pretty fast, but I think that was ruining my muscles. Yeah, I'd do like I'd wake up, I'd eat my breakfast of like like 2 pounds of oatmeal, right? Like you
Yeah.
gotta like that's the thing. I was shoveling like 3,000, 4,000 calories, and I was
Yeah.
still losing weight. It was so crazy. Like
That's amazing.
I
That's
could not put
amazing.
on pounds, my friend.
Okay,
I
actually,
couldn't.
that shows the power of walking.
It does.
I've talked a
Holy
lot
crap.
about walking, a lot about steps. I mean, I wear a Fitbit and an Apple Watch because I have trust issues, but like that's amazing, man. Oh my God. And then what would you do? Just sleep in hotels every night? Like,
I slept on the side of the road. I slept on the side of the road. And then the other thing, no, and then here you think this is the crazier thing. I didn't bring any money. So I had this whole philosophy, right? No, so there's there's a bunch of these monks in Buddhism that their whole thing was like they would only walk as long as like the world provided. And so I took on the same philosophy, and I was like, let's see, it's my experiment. I'm a scientist, right? Like this is my experiment. And so I just was like, let's see what happens. And the craziest thing was that people would stop their car, they'd say hi to me, ask me what I was doing, and then they'd give me a 20. I didn't even ask. I literally was not asking for money. I never asked for money. But
insane.
it was the craziest thing. People would, or I'd meet people in towns, in small
Yeah.
towns, and they would be like, hey, do you need a hotel? Sure. Like, let me get you one down the road. Or they would invite me into their house. We'd have a meal, I'd
Are
get a
you
shower.
serious?
I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Like I'm not, to me, it was a light at the end of that tunnel of like, there's hope in this country. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we are brainwashed. I hate to say it, but like the idea that like we live in a world where we have enemies,
Yeah.
of course that makes it easier to manipulate us. But like
Of
if
course.
you talk to the person next door and you bring with them your like honest, authentic self,
Yeah.
it opens doors. Like
Dude, this is amazing. Holy shit. Wait, tell me the route again from where to where?
so I went to college at UC Irvine,
Okay.
University of California,
Yeah.
Irvine. There's a dormitory complex called Middle Earth. I started at the Shire, and that's where I used to hang out there with all my good friends. And then I walked, through California to the east side into Arizona, a little bit of New Mexico, that little panhandle, all the way through Texas. That is a huge state. That was like 3 months of my walk, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like 880 miles. It's crazy. And then I ended up in Louisiana, in New Orleans.
Okay.
And that's the city that my dad came when he first moved here to the United States.
My God, that's amazing. So what was the total mileage? Do you remember?
It was 2,000. So
Okay.
I took some detours. Like if you go straight on the 10, it's like 1,900. But like,
okay, so 2,000 miles. How long was the whole process?
It was 6 months. I took breaks.
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months.
This is insane. And you literally, of that 6 months, you slept on the side of the road many a night?
Yeah.
What about clothes and shoes and like socks and like?
This is a funny story. So
Bryan, this is insane.
We'll have to revisit it.
This was not in the deep shallow dive pre-podcast questionnaire.
We went from shallow to deep, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude. And it is definitely a dive. This is insane.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I thrifted most of my clothes, right? Like, you get like a shirt for $1. I mean, it's really not.
So you had some money with you.
No, that was just the money that people gave me.
That's the money people gave you.
Yeah.
Dude, was there any days you didn't eat?
No.
Because you didn't have...
No. If for some reason people would like, again, stop and give me like lunches, they give me food. I got a lot of sandwiches, man. Like I really appreciate those people.
This is incredible. And then did you document this with your phone or anything like that? Is there like, did you turn it into a documentary or anything like that?
I have like a little post somewhere on like, there's an old website called Instructables, which is all about like do it yourself stuff, and I can send that to you as a link. But I honestly, I did a little bit of blogging, but my whole point was like no phone, no music, no distractions. It was like I'm 100% in it. I have to do this 8 hours a day and like just live with my
you
thoughts.
Weren't even listening to anything?
Nope, it was just me.
Dude, this is insane. Oh my God. What about your mom or siblings? Were they like, what are you doing?
Oh, my mom tried to bribe me. She was like, can you not do this? Like, I will give you money to like backpack Europe or something like more conventional, right? And she kept doing it the first couple months. So she was like, I'll get you a bus ticket and you can come home. I was like, no, I've come to the point where I've hit rock bottom. Or very close to it, and I was like, if I don't do this,
like,
I can't live myself.
Were you going I mean, I know your dad's passing, but like, were you going through something? And you don't have to get into whatever.
No, I mean, no, of course, no. I mean, I think for me it was this idea of like, I was a great student. My parents always wanted me to be a doctor. I was like, no, I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm going to forge my own path, and that path was more about like, oh, I want like a PhD in chemistry, which I ended up like dropping out of. By the way, there's a whole other story there. But the idea there was I felt confined by the idea that what was really important was like getting a job, getting married, and like going through the whole motion.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it was like a story being given to me of like, this is how you're supposed to live. And so when my dad died, I ended up going to Burning Man twice.
Okay.
Before he died and after he died. And those two experiences taught me like there's a lot more going on in the world, and you got to disconnect from it.
Okay.
Right. That's the thing. Like we're so plugged into like the stories and the voices and the ideas that, whether it's like you said, geopolitical or economic, and it's to make you afraid. Like I realized this. I lived in fear, whether that was like true fear of like death, or it was like a simulated fear, like, oh, I'm gonna lose all my money if I'm not good enough, or the economy's shit, so like nothing can work out. And I told myself like there's got to be a way to break out of that, and that to me was like the first step. Yeah. Ironically, right? Like it was just like, you know what, F it. I'm going to walk. I'm going to see. And in my head, I was like, my God, people are genuinely good.
That's amazing.
Genuinely good. Like
Yeah,
that was
that's
what I took out of it.
amazing. That's I mean,
Yeah.
to get the win of humanity is generally good, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you got to New Orleans, you didn't walk back, did you? You ended up
No,
flying.
no, I'd saved enough to get a flight back.
This is amazing. Freaking, I did not know Forrest Gump was coming on the podcast today. This is incredible. Wow, we took a left at Albuquerque, pun intended there. Let me
Exactly.
ask you this.
Yeah.
We've gone in a different direction, but I
Oh,
love it.
sure.
I'm going to bring it back to food in a second, but like, have you ever tried like ayahuasca or some of those psilocybin, some like mushroom?
Psilocybin. Yeah, definitely.
Psilocybin. Yeah.
So I'm sure, like, if I say this on the podcast, I'm sure it'll be fine. But when I was living in Washington, I learned how to grow them.
Wow.
But I did take LSD while I was at Burning Man. That sort of helped catalyze that, be able to, approach that walk from from a more courageous
What
perspective.
obviously I've heard LSD. I don't even know what that really is. Is it a liquid? Is it a powder? What
Dude,
is
it's like
that?
nothing. It's so little. Like
Yeah.
they literally have to like put it on a stamp in order to like actually measure it out, because it's like micrograms. Micrograms are enough to
God.
cause hallucination.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
So
so
you
I
did
can tell you.
You did
Yeah.
LSD at Burning Man. Okay, there was obviously so many visual stimulations at Burning Man from what I've
Yeah.
seen. I've never been. I mean, what did you feel?
So the craziest thing, and I was not anticipating this, because it was in the middle of like some rave party. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit here and meditate. And the craziest thing was like, under the influence, I could visualize a perfect Buddhist mandala. I don't know if you've seen those. They're like extremely complex, and there's a lot of detail, and they look like fortresses
Okay.
basically. And I was able to like see it completely, and I was like, how the hell is this happening? So I was playing around with different like, and it was weird. Like you get this feeling of like time changing or reversing. That's like a really strange phenomenon. Definitely there's a lot of visuals, but I think they're more like distractions. I realized like the voice in my head wasn't me. I think that was the biggest takeaway. Was like, because you can, like, people outside of you or things outside of you can influence that voice. Like I realize, like, if you're really afraid, or if like you're watching TV or something like that, it gets in there. And I was like, I'm just the one that's listening to all that. Like, and I was like, and I have control. I can
So
actually
you could hear that
choose.
voice talking to you when you took the LSD.
Yeah. And I separated from it. I was like,
Interesting.
that's not me.
Yeah.
That's actually like, that's just like brain chemistry.
Mm.
Like I'm actually the one that's listening to it, and the one that's seeing everything, and watching everything occur. And I was like, oh, and I can respond not reactively, but I can proactively say like, this is how I want to approach every moment.
Got it. Got it.
You know?
Interesting. Were you just sitting down, or like when you're on LSD, what's that protocol?
Everyone's got their own way of doing it, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was very spontaneous to just like settle down, even in the chaos of like, techno music and raves and all sorts of things, like, and hot girls everywhere, like
Yeah.
barely clothed, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, I was like, that's just distraction.
Yeah.
Like that's just like the lights in the mirror. Like what's real and true is like whatever's happening right here. And I think that helped me kind of make that connection. Well, we'll go back to food, right? And make that connection to food. Was like, I can feel what the hell's going on here. And as so long as I'm not distracted by the world of like pornography or women or, television or whatever it is, I can pay attention. And then the message is there. It's always telling you like what's good.
Interesting. And was that a spontaneous decision to do that on the spot, or did you go to Burning Man thinking I'm going to try LSD?
No, I think there was an opportunity, and I can tell you is I realize my life is kind of all over the place.
I love
But
it.
when
Though.
I was
This is so real, dude. This is real talk,
crazy.
man. I appreciate
it. It's real talk, real
I
talk. So when I was a kid in high school, I was one of those nerds, right? And I did science fairs and that sort of thing. And I did science camp. And one of the science camps, they gave me the opportunity to meet a bunch of these Nobel laureates at this dinner, this like big fancy dinner. And one of them, because I can barely remember his name right now, but he invented the way to make DNA, basically to clone DNA.
Okay.
Right. He was the guy who invented it. And his story was that he dropped LSD one day while he was like driving home, and he was like, holy shit, that's how you do it.
Wow.
Like he put all the pieces together because they'd been trying to figure this out for decades. And he was like, oh yeah, just do this, this, and this. And we just got to find that. And I thought that was so fast. And I ended up meeting him there. And I was like, holy shit. Like, and you know what my project was? On LSD. I was presenting. I had this whole this fucking molecule, this giant molecule I built.
Yeah.
And like this model of LSD. And like it like carved something in my brain. I was like, there's something important for me to hear about this thing, you know, because there's just too many weird coincidences. And that's the thing, like a lot of my life has been just these coincidences. Because like I meet this one person and then I have to do this one thing, and then all of a sudden everything shows up as if it's supposed to.
That is incredible, man. That is wow. Okay.
It's crazy.
I love it. All right, but the ayahuasca or psilocybin. I mean, I have friends that keep trying to get me to do that stuff, and especially me. You know, I don't know how much of Deep Shallow Dive you've consumed, but you know, I get into a lot of things, and gosh, this is going to be like episode 360 something. So I've talked about a lot of things, and I'm super open about absorbing new experiences.
Yeah.
And so I do have two friends in particular who are like, you will get so much out of doing these. They're big. One's big on ayahuasca. One's big on the mushroom psilocybin, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know, man. I'm such a chicken shit about stuff. I'm like,
I'll tell you what, as a scientist, right? Like as a scientist, if you're going to do any of those three, between ayahuasca, LSD, and psilocybin, I recommend psilocybin only because it has been part of our like ancient history.
Okay.
One. Two, it's a lot easier to dose. Like ayahuasca is like all or nothing. Like you got to like knock it out of the ballpark or you're going to be sick for weeks.
Yeah.
Or days.
Yeah.
And then LSD is like, you can't turn it off. Like you're in it for 8 hours. And if you get a bad trip, you're stuck. It feels like hell, right? You don't want to do that.
Okay.
Psilocybin, 2 hours tops. You can control it. You can microdose and just get, like, I would say start with microdosing because to me, like that gives you some idea of like, oh, like things are a little more malleable than you think, but it doesn't blow you out of the water. You're like, holy shit, I got to face death now. Like it's at my doorstep because like, you know, like, you know, until you're ready for that, like that's like kind of insane.
Oh, Bryan, this is awesome. Oh my God. Talk about a freaking curveball. I love it.
Left and then left.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get back into the food. I'll ask you two more things. What are your thoughts? This is so funny. I'm going to jump from this to what are your thoughts on like beef jerky and cured meats? Talk about a topic change. We went from LSD. I think I'm the first podcaster to go from LSD to beef jerky and cured meats.
Yep. And it all makes sense. It's under the theme.
I love it.
I would say, you know, those are really tricky because I'd say those nitrates and nitrites really do mess things up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone goes both ways. Like, it's the same thing with the sodium benzoate, right? Like, okay, we've got to have them so that the meat doesn't like give you botulism. Like that's horrible. We don't want to kill kids. Like, yeah, of course. Like I think that's bottom line. That's what I think is the perspective in the food industry and especially food scientists. Like we don't want to kill anyone. Okay.
Yeah.
But is that actually something that is going to serve us long term?
I gotcha.
Into adulthood.
I gotcha.
Into old age, right?
Okay.
And totally I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't
totally
think so.
Get it. So are a lot of food scientists like maybe torn internally because they get into it thinking I'm going to create these wonderful things that are going to improve humanity. And then fundamentally you start working for a monster company and your whole goal is to drive 6 cents out of the price of the beef jerky.
Yeah.
Oh, God, man, that's probably tough, right?
It's pretty bleak. I mean, for me, I think I'm trying to carve a different path in the industry. right?
Okay.
And it's really hard. Like, I mean, there's a lot of systems against you. And so I see my colleagues, brilliant people, and they really give a shit. Like, I mean, these are
Yeah.
not people who you don't go through 10 years. Like, if I didn't give a shit, I would go and be, stockbroker, and I would make my millions and probably like burn myself out to death, right? Like, I can do that. I could probably do that. I have the IQ for it, but I don't want to do that. Like, I want to have meaning. I want to provide meaning. And so for me, I think the bottom line ends up being like, where are all the jobs? And the only people who can provide jobs are the ones that know how to cut the bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So tell us your business, your food scientist consulting business. Like, give us an average client, like who hires you and then what do they hire you for?
Yeah. So, I mean, my whole thing has always been about, making healthy food. Like, and at least within the parameters that we can in our American food system, do our best. And so a lot of the clients that I see, we do a lot of beverages, like functional beverages, supplements. And we'll do a lot of it is just like tweaking flavors, right? Like, there's foods that already exist. Things with like mushroom powder or nootropics. And they just taste like garbage. So we got to figure out a way to, make it palatable, because people don't, I mean, at the end of the day, and this is like survey after survey after survey, they buy things for taste and flavor.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
For better or worse. All right, fine. I can at least like hide like decent things underneath. Protein bars, like you're mentioning, protein shakes. We'll do a lot of that. And, it's again, you kind of know how the sausage is made on the back end. And
Yeah.
it's hard. It's really hard to make a difference and impact. I think there's a lot of spin. There's a lot of marketing, a lot of very powerful forces.
Absolutely.
Gosh,
And then
like
are you getting hired by startups or mid-sized companies or bigger companies? Who's kind of the bread and butter for you?
Yeah, definitely startups. I've had a few big companies, but like, they've got a line. Like, I'm not here to work for PepsiCo or
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Taco Bell. Like, and I'm sure if I gave it my full shot, I could probably win some client work that way. But I mean, again, like, I've got to live with myself.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to think like if I'm making food that I wouldn't eat myself, that's a problem, right?
Got
To
it.
me,
Got it.
the
Got it.
where all of the Venn diagram
And by the
of
way,
like
just
meaning.
so people heard that
Yes.
properly, what Bryan said, if I'm making food that I wouldn't eat myself, that's a problem. I love that, dude. I love the integrity in that statement. That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh man, what a doozy of an episode. This was fantastic. Listen, man, I really, first of all, I appreciate your authentic nature in general, but just even opening up about all of that, I honestly, obviously, I didn't know any of that and wasn't expecting any of that. But you know what, man, you brought such a real component to this conversation that I hope your credibility was already there, but with me, it's cemented even more because of just how real you were about the stuff we didn't even intend to talk. So anyway,
Hey, I have to say, I appreciate it, Ray. I mean, I don't necessarily do this for anyone, right?
Yeah.
Like, for me, it's like, obviously you get it and you appreciate it. And I could
100%.
tell, like, me saying it, like, makes an impact.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, I lost my dad 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
anyone that wants to talk anything related to losing a parent, especially a father, since that's what we've both gone through, I'm all for that 24/7. Here's what we'll do. I have a feeling I'm going to get a bunch of questions. Hell, probably a bunch of LSD related questions, but also maybe some food related questions.
Maybe.
Listen, you're a legend, dude. You're awesome. I want to have you back on. And I actually have a bunch of I'm going through a process where I'm really trying to, like, again, help people make sense of their food intake, their geopolitical intake, their everything intake.
Sure.
So if you're up for it, I'll gather questions. I'll put some questions on my own, and then maybe we'll do a secondary episode and kind of really dive into some specifics.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, like, I really got into my dad. Actually, I just lost my mom last year, and dude, I'm going to Burning Man again this year. I haven't been in
My
14
goodness.
years. So
Yeah.
whatever we do next episode, we can definitely we can speak to that.
Well, then you know what? We'll do an episode when you get back from Burning Man,
Yeah,
so
let's do
you
it.
can give us your thoughts on LSD Part 2 that you're probably going to do.
Oh my gosh.
Man. All right, listen, dude, you and I are friends, man. You and I are friends. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed really 2 episodes in one. And I'll put all of Bryan's information in obviously the show notes. If anybody needs consulting work, actually, I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I've got this liquid vitamin business that I need to reboot, and I'm going to talk to you on that. But anyway, man, I really appreciate it. Call a spade, and thank you, Bryan.
Thank you, Ray.
It's super fun.
It's a pleasure. Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Thank you
Hang
so
on
much.
the line a second. All right, everybody.
You
We'll
bet.
talk to you soon.
This episode was brought to you by Zippix Nicotine Toothpicks. Zip more, smoke less. Totally satisfying, discreet, and delicious. Zippix nicotine-infused toothpicks are available in 6 great flavors, each containing at least 2 milligrams of nicotine to curb those cravings. Zippix is FDA registered and proudly made in the USA. Use discount code DSD for 10% off your order at zippixtoothpicks.com. Zip more, smoke less, save 10%.